Good morning. It's 11 o'clock and we will get started. So good morning to everyone. Thank you for attending. My name is Larry Jewell and I'm from the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. And I do thank you for attending our weekly Aging with Pride discussion group for two SGLBTQ seniors and their friends and allies. Thank you too to our partners, SAGE and Pride Center of Edmonton. Before we begin our discussion this morning, and it is a sort of open discussion with some bit of preliminary information, I must acknowledge that we are located on Treaty 6 territory and respect the histories, languages, and cultures of First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all First Peoples of Canada, whose presence and culture continues to enrich our lives. A couple of housekeeping items. Firstly, to let you know that this session will be recorded for future use on our YouTube channel. If you don't wish your image to be recorded, please close your video feed. And secondly, please respect the confidentiality of any personal information that you may hear this morning. This is our quarterly open discussion group, and since I initially thought I would be doing this by myself, although fortunately both Eric Storey and Michael Phair are able to join me here, I opted for a slightly different format. And I thought what we would use this morning, and it's helpful because I see we've got a couple of new people here as well. So what we're going to do is try to give the context of Aging with Pride and a little bit about, I guess, Edmonton Pride Seniors Group, of which Aging with Pride is a project. The Pride Seniors Group, which is now a registered society, has been functioning for what, 20 years. I'm not sure it's quite that long, maybe closer to 10 to 15 years. And the overarching goal is to ensure that all senior services, activity centers, and housing are caring, safe, and welcoming for all seniors, including and especially our concern for queer seniors, and to ensure as well that culturally appropriate services are available for all queer seniors, including those people who are living in their own private home, as well as those people in congregate living settings. Aging with Pride grew out of an initiative from the federal government called Pegasus, which had to do with trying to reach isolated seniors. And the initiative of Michael Phair, we got some monies in something called the Tri-City project, which looked to try to reach seniors, queer seniors in particular, who might be isolated. The COVID pandemic, which is right in the middle of when we started this project, or right at the beginning of when we started this project, both increased the urgency of dealing, because there were now a lot more people who had been used to being out who were now isolated because of the public health situation, and it also created some problems. We started off trying with a phone system. I think Lawrence attended that, and that basically didn't work. We got very few people, but we hit upon Zoom. And the Zoom format seems to have worked well, although we'd certainly like to continue to grow our audience. And excuse me. And we are now at a point, it's influenced by the slow reopening of SAGE, excuse me, what we really now want to do is to add to the Zoom component, which we will certainly keep, but we would like to restore the original in-person component. This originally started off before the epidemic, and our idea was we would simply have a group of people meeting. We have not been able to do that, but I do want to draw your attention specifically to a couple of things, one of which is on June 15th. We are going at Sage downtown to attempt to resurrect, as it were, the strawberry tea, which the late Jeff Bovey really had initiated and was a considerable success. I think got a lot of attendance. So I'd ask people to mark your calendar for June 15th, Thursday morning, and we hope to have some music from Northern Heart and actually meet in person. Needless to say, having a strawberry tea online is not the strawberry shortcake isn't gonna transmit well. So we urge you to come out in person for that. And in addition, through courtesy of SJ Lafayette at Pride Center, we have an opportunity to collaborate again with Metro Cinema and show a movie. And we are just in the process of deciding which movie. So if any of you have any ideas for the movie, please simply email to agentwithpride@gmail.com. And we'll certainly appreciate hearing your suggestions. I'm going to turn the mic over to Michael and then to Eric in a second. But what I do want you to think about is the programs that we've done, the Aging with Pride talks over the last quarter, things that you have enjoyed, things that we haven't done that you'd like to hear, and generally your thoughts on what we can do to be more helpful. Education is only one of the focuses of the Pride Seniors Group. The other big one is to look at housing. We have talked on the educational front about talking to residents in the various congregate living settings through the season or through the city. That has been an issue, obviously, with the pandemic, and we really need to get that started again. So if you have opportunities either to host, if you live in such a resident or involved, to host such meetings, we'd be delighted to have a panel coming up. I saw Penny Christopher here a while ago. Penny has been on our panel, as has Eric. In addition, if any of you would like to be part of a panel, then that could certainly be an option. But the other thing, the other way is to set a queer-centered housing initiative, and that's what Michael is going to talk about. Michael, may I?
Yes, thanks, Larry. And pleased to be here with this program as well, because it's certainly the Aging with Pride has done real well over the last couple of years. And in terms of the fact that we were funded to the federal government, it was a good use of federal money as well. So because it hasn't cost much, and we've got a lot of sessions out of that relatively small grant that we were able to get. So I'm going to talk a little bit about specifically about residential housing for older gays and lesbians in Edmonton. And earlier years, and I think we've been around almost about 14 years now, Larry. Your estimate was close. We did a couple of different surveys over that time, and the results, particularly of the second one, which was a much larger a group that we had nearly 200 between focus groups, individuals that filled out, and we did some individual interviews as well. Housing and residence for older gays and lesbians came up as a predominantly important for many folks. And in that context, then our organization, Edmonton Pride Senior Group, began to look at what and how that might happen. And based on the surveys, what people thought was important, and what they would want to see, and where they might want it located, all those kinds of things in that as such. So we began to get a better understanding of what this would be, since none of us in our group had been involved before with building the residence kind of thing, and that's of this kind of scale we need to talk about. We had about 50 people in the survey that indicated that within 3 or 4 years they thought they'd be interested in perhaps in moving and living in such a residence as such. Now those years have already gone by. I don't know where those folks are thinking these days, but I think it did speak to us about the fact that there were a significant number of people that were interested. The place to start was looking at land. You need land before you can build something, and also because we had no money to get land for cheap or free, and that took us in the direction of looking at the city as one of the few landowners that provide free land. The feds do as well a little bit, but they don't have as much land around that as well. And the city has a system of accepting applications from nonprofit groups for housing, specifically for housing for might be related to seniors, or it might be related to persons that with low income that couldn't that have difficulty paying for senior housing, and so in that exploration we ended up with the likely land that's located just east of downtown, in the quarters area, and found land that is bordered by Roland Road and 95th Street, just overlooking the community down that leads down to the river as such. And in finding this possible location, which includes 6 lots, which would be the size of land that we would need for the building of such a residence, it turned out that the city had divided that into 2 parcels of 3. And one parcel of 3, they had put in the inventory for private development, that any private developer could, come forward and it would pay the market price for it and then would build. And the other 3 lots, they put in what land that they would make available to nonprofit groups. It turned out to our benefit that the land, the 3 lots that they put out for sale, after nearly 3 years, they didn't have any interest in it whatsoever. So with our work dealing specifically with the city administration that are involved in this, we were able to encourage that those 3 lots for sale privately, to bring them back and put them with the other 3, so that there would be 6 lots available. And I have to say that that's been quite a lengthy process and a lot of advocating. But on March 1st of this year, those 3 lots were now moved, so they're back with the other 3 lots. All 6 lots are available for a nonprofit organization. So that for us has been a major step and majorly important. The process that unfolds now is that likely within probably the next 4 weeks or so, the city will officially make that property available for nonprofit organizations. And there will be a 3-month window for nonprofit groups like ours to come forward with a proposal for it, to what we want to build. And it has to be residents. It has to be for groups like ours or similar nonprofit organizations. A couple of the areas that get talked about are for seniors and for persons whose income is lower, et cetera. And we are able to qualify on both of those for some. The general norm, which is kind of dictated by CMHC, Canadian Mortgage and Housing, which we also have to deal with, but not until we have land. But officially, what they call mixed housing would be that when you add up the units that you're going to build, that they equal about, I think it is 85% of what it would be if you were paying regular rent. So you have some people paying what would be the traditional amount of rent for it. You have some paying that are just a little less than the current cost of apartment renting. And then you would have a few that are quite a bit lower in terms of what they're able to afford. And so we expect to put that together and go forward. That process, because we have no money and we don't own any land, nor have we ever built anything, nor have we run a senior residence, entailed us going forward and finding other organizations that we could form a partnership with. And I'm pleased to say that that we have worked hard, and we have a legal agreement these days of a partnership agreement that includes Right at Home Housing, which is a nonprofit housing organization in Edmonton that's been around about 40 years or more. They have about 300 units, but their housing is for persons who have physical or mental disabilities, not seniors. And they aren't interested in getting in the seniors field, but they are prepared to own the land and build the building and own the building. And that the second partner is Garland United assisted living place, and it owns and runs a senior residence right near the university called Ashburn. They have for 20 years. The Ashburn is a affirming senior center residence, and perhaps one of the only ones in the country that's considered affirming, meaning that they advertise for persons who are not advertise, but they accept people who are gay and lesbian. They train staff, et cetera, and that too. And they have a long history of that. So they are also part of this moving forward, that they would be willing and interested to actually run it on a day-to-day basis. And work, do all that needs to be done on a day-to-day basis with folks. So those are, and then ourselves, the Edmonton Pride Senior Group, we have a stake in it as well. And our claim to fame is that we're the ones that will bring the residents, because that's the audience that we know, that the land transfer, which we were successful in getting, that land was worth about $3.5 million. And so if we actually do this, we can claim that $3.5 million helps us to be have a role to play in it as well. So the three partners will be, or the partners will all be not quite equal in that regard, but in terms of making decisions, yes, they will be. You'll need two of the three to agree to move forward with any part of the project in that as well. And we have also put in a clause in the agreement that if there is some disagreement, a way to bring in an outside person group to help work out the disagreement. So the partnership is in place. We will be preparing all the stuff for the city, which is very extensive, and some months of work and all of that we're just beginning that. We'll also be lobbying the city because this will go to city council to vote on. The provincial legislation says is the city provides land for less than market value, it has to be approved by city council. So this will end up at city council to make the decision. We're working on the side with city administration. That's who the information will go to, and they're the ones that will take it forward to city council. Be at a public meeting, we'll be there and speak to it. But we also want to be there with the city administration saying we filled everything that our group has provided everything that's needed. They meet all the requirements, et cetera, and that. So that will be our next big direction. If we are successful, we will then be working with Canadian Housing Mortgage Corporation, which would provide a loan, probably between 70 and 80% of the cost. They also provide a significant grant to groups like ours in order to hire the kind of architects and contractors and all that kind of stuff. That's a huge kind of effort as well. And that grant is a grant. You don't pay that back. The mortgage gets paid back over a period of time, of course, through that process. So the only other area that I'll mention then with this is we still are going to need some additional money besides what we might get from this city in terms of land and from CMHC in terms of loan. And so we are started work with a communication company on putting together a capital campaign to raise probably about $5 million. We have not made that public yet, nor the amount, so just kind of keep that to yourselves. We don't plan to bring that forward until we know we have the land, kind of thing. That it's always hard to get money from folks if you don't even own the land. Once we own the land, we're in a different ball game. And so we likely will bring that forward about the same time that the decision is going to city council, kind of thing. So we hope this will be end of August, early September, but I can't guarantee that. So that's where we are. I would say we're a third of the way for actually having a residence. I wish we were a little bit further, but if this next piece, if we're successful with the city, we'll be, I think, 3/4 of the way there, because I think we will get the money from the CMHC, the campaign we have to hope for. And the new residents would be 2 years after that, more or less. That's construction and all the rest. Probably 60 to 70 two we'd be building. Some single bedroom, some 1.5, which is like a den and bedroom, and then a few 2 bedrooms spaces. That's tentatively what we're aiming for. All of this will depend a bit on an architect costs, all of that kind of thing, that as well. So I think that's, I probably said enough, and that's where we are.
Thank you, Michael. I'm not sure there will be a lot of questions to you, but I'm going to ask Eric to speak briefly on the importance of aligning ourselves with other senior serving organizations. After that, Eric will moderate the questions. I will remind everyone that we do end promptly at noon out of respect for people's time and other commitments. Eric, on to you.
Well, okay. He asked me to speak briefly. I'll keep a close eye to see if anybody's eyes are starting to nod off as I'm talking, but there's so much that happens in the senior serving sector, and every once in a while a news story will pop up, but that's not to say that there's an awful lot of stuff going on underneath the tapestry. And so I just want to talk about a couple of things. First of all, give credit to the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group. In 2017, it was that the Ashburn declared itself to be an affirming residence for all seniors. And that was the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group was instrumental in doing that. There was a great ceremony with Randy Boissonneau and the Minister of Seniors and Housing and the mayor. Everybody was there. It was a great event. They even made a multi-pride colored cake out of it. So that was good. But I do want to talk about a couple of things. So they mentioned, I can't remember if it was Michael or Larry that mentioned Pegasus, which stood for the Pan Edmonton Group addressing social isolation of seniors. And that was a group that was formed quite a few years ago. And out of that, there's sort of a network formed. They tried to bring people together to talk about issues in the seniors community and try to find solutions and programs that would span across the city. And it's very important to form some sort of coordination so that where one program ended, the next program might pick up without a huge gap, and that we could transfer services from one to the other fairly easily. There is in Edmonton a group called Age Friendly Edmonton, which is a joint venture between the City of Edmonton and the Edmonton Seniors Coordinating Council. And it has four basic, Age Friendly is a international movement with four basic tenets, and that is that seniors are engaged, participating, and contributing to their communities. Seniors are safe and well in their homes and communities. Seniors are respected and included. Seniors have access to programs, services, and resources they need. And all of that sounds really, really important to the Edmonton Pride Seniors Group and queer seniors in general across the city. So what we're trying to do now with Age Friendly is bring back together this stewardship group, which represents all so many senior serving organizations across the city, to try to ensure that there's better services to seniors within the community. Age Friendly, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Age Friendly did sponsor the creation of a toolkit for inclusion to help organizations move further along towards inclusion. And I have to say that, I can't think of one senior serving organization in the city that isn't currently working on diversity, sorry. But it's a roadmap, and some are further along the way than others are. That's fine. But the important part is that they would like to ensure that people feel included, because it is so important for our seniors. So one of the things I'll almost be finished here in a moment, but take, for example, SAGE, where we used to have the meeting of the 2SLE LGBTQ seniors prior to COVID. A lot of people started to go to that group because they knew that it was affirming and welcoming. But the nature of the organization, the people that originally went just to that group, they started to go on the bus trips to the casino and on the bus trips down to the Holden Theater and that sort of thing, because the organization was welcoming. But it goes back to Murray Billett's expression of discrimination hinders coming out, and coming out hinders discrimination. So I'd really like to invite people to join your local seniors center, participate in activities. Hopefully you'll get connected to the community, meet new people, meet new friends. I'm of the age where, unfortunately, a lot of my friends are dying off, and you need to keep being connected and meeting new people. Otherwise, you'll find yourself isolated. And so it's an important thing to do. And I'm sorry, I'm preaching here, but there is so much happening behind the scenes for seniors. And I think that it is very, very positive. But I think the most important part is that if you feel able, and if you can sort of join some seniors activities or senior centers around town and make yourself known, if you feel safe letting yourself be known, then I think it helps everybody. And I think that's about it. I did see a note from Steve that he would like that toolkit, and I will email you a link to it after, as long as I write that down so I don't forget it. That's really about it. If anybody has questions, I can go on for hours about the what's happening in the senior serving community in Edmonton, but I'll shut up now and hand it back to Larry. Oh, you're muted again, Larry.
I'm endeavoring to unmute. We have only one thing to think. So if there are questions, comments, I guess one of the things we're certainly interested in as far as Aging with Pride specifically goes is those of you who have been to the earlier talks, what have you enjoyed? What things have you found less useful? And any questions to Michael or Eric as well. So Eric, perhaps you could unmute the entire audience at this point, and if there are questions, either raise your hand or put it in the chat box.
The only thing is that I have to say, I think that each you have to unmute yourself before you can talk.
Oh, okay. So if you will remember not to do as I've been doing and unmute yourself before you start talking, that would be great. Kirk, it's very nice to see you here. I hadn't noticed you early. The building will be pet friendly, I assure you. So you won't
Because
have to
Geezer,
worry.
of course, would insist
Stephen,
on
I
that.
do want to come in.
Sorry. Stephen, I
Are
see
there,
you sort of raise your hand there for a moment.
Oh, no, I was just scratching.
Sorry, I don't mean to talk over people. Just things happen. To trying to keep an eye on all of the screens all at once here. So, sorry.
Okay, you're going to moderate from here, are you, Eric?
Yes, I will. I will.
Okay, good.
Okay. So, does anybody have a question? No? No questions? No? Okay, well, I guess I need to fill the time with some interpretive dance, which if the threat of doing that might encourage people to ask some questions or talk about some of the topics that we had.
I have a question suggestion, I guess.
Sure.
So I was downtown the other night going to a wedding reception. It was Tuesday night, and it raises the question about safety downtown. There's been some incidences over the past year, and I see there's something coming up about fire safety. I wonder if we could get a police officer or someone to talk about senior safety downtown.
So personal senior safety is what
Yeah.
you're saying. Okay.
Good.
Because
I
I bought a couple subscriptions to the symphony and the opera, and I'll be going downtown. I didn't go downtown much at all last year, but over the next year, I'll probably be going down more often. So
Yeah.
a bit concerned about that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Could I make a comment? I live downtown in a senior's residence, and I share your apprehension. It's easy to overstate. I mean, during the day, I really, I go around without much worry, and the majority of people obviously are, if you treat them respectfully, will treat you. But there are some, at night, I think it's a different thing. So we've had here in the residence a speaker from the police who gave an excellent talk. And we're unfortunately that position has gone, so she's no longer available. But it's a really good idea, and it's one that we certainly have been thinking about. We've also considered issues like scams and we will have falls, things like that. A number of we attempt to cover issues that are important because you're a senior. We also attempt to cover issues that are important because you're queer, and sometimes both of those things at the same time. But thank you for that suggestion, Dawn. We'll certainly prioritize it.
We did do a presentation on frauds and scams. In fact, I did it. I think that was in the fall. And if you're thinking that, we don't like to bore people and repeat programming, but I do think that perhaps we might put it on the schedule again for next fall. Although, just a warning right now, it's tax season. People are receiving text messages from CRA and phone calls that you're about to be arrested. My answer to those is, oh, they're on their way. I'll put the kettle on, click, goodbye. That's right. I'm always excited to see policemen.
I'm much more concerned about getting stabbed. I'm not worried about fraud scams.
Stephen.
Just so that you know, the West Edmonton Seniors Association has just put together a wonderful website all about scams. And the executive director there, his name is Hai Dong. He is in charge of going out to places like this and doing education for that website. And that website's now being used nationally throughout many of the cities because a lot of the seniors associations wanted it, but didn't have the wherewithal or the money to be able to put it together. But it's right here in Edmonton.
Super. Yes, Haidong is a really a wonderful, wonderful advocate and support for the community, the seniors community in general. Just a wonderful man. So I didn't know about that website, but
it's just brand new.
Oh, see, that's why it's important to stay up to date. But yeah. Oh, seniorfraudalert.ca. Okay. We'll keep an eye on that.
Michael?
So a suggestion that I would have, I suppose partly as I look around my own place, is the whole question around hoarding. How many of us have more stuff than we ever wanted or needed, and how we're going to deal with it or not. And all the excuses we use to not deal with it, kind of thing. And particularly as you get older and start thinking about, or that you may have to move somewhere else, kind of thing. So that might be interesting to do something about hoarding or collection, whatever you want to call it.
Are you looking into our room, Michael? I thought I narrowed the picture down.
I think, yes, there's two things. One is that there is a program for seniors to deal with housing, to deal with hoarding. And I actually did some social work on that program a few years ago, and it's troublesome. I remember getting calls from children of seniors saying, I'll take them on holidays. I just want you to back up a truck and empty the place out. And I'd have to explain that that's not really very helpful. And so there is a psychological basis behind it, and it's very hard to break that, and it takes a lot of patience on everybody's behalf. But it is important because it causes a fire risk, personal safety risk, and so on. So there's that side of it, but there's also the side of, I'd like to say that I'm not a hoarder, I'm a collector. And so the other side is not hoarding, but downsizing. And I do know a lady who specializes in downsizing. And I think that might be a really good, because that's the thought of, I'm going to have to move out of here one time at some point in my life. And what the heck am I going to have to do in order to be able to do that? Larry, I see you've got your hand up there.
Yeah, I'm wondering what people think. These are all important topics, but sometimes it's nice just to be a little entertained and have a few things. And I'm wondering if there are people who may have traveled, who might wish to share some travel experiences, whether there are people who have connections with the arts, with theater, music, whatever. And if there are any, this is a great chance to speak up. I mean, I've dealt a little with my connections, but if you have connections, and if you're interested in this sort of balance, I'd be grateful to hear your comments.
Mhm. Okay. Stephen, your
I
hand
just
is
wanted
up.
to introduce myself to the group because I'm brand new. And so my name is Stephen, and I'm a consultant for Chartwell Retirement Residences. And the reason why I heard about this is because I had a meeting with Michael, and he asked me to join. And so I have a ton of resources for downsizers and for all of that kind of thing. So if you need anything, please call me or email me, and I would be happy to share my preferred partner list with you, because a lot of them come out and do free consultations, right? And so they'll walk you through the process. This is what I would do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And so that would be really valuable, I think. Like, some people can afford to hire a downsizer, some people can't, but the ones that I deal with all give free consultations.
Wonderful, a wonderful resource. And I think maybe, Stephen, what we might ask is if you might be able to convince one of those people to do a
Absolutely.
session for us.
was-
Our typical sessions are about 40 minutes of 45 minutes of presentation, and then 10 or 15 to 20 minutes of Q&A afterwards. I think that would be a wonderful, I think we could all use a little bit of help on downsizing. So I'll be in touch with you about that in future.
Yep.
Gina?
Yes, it's me, Gina. I just wanted to comment on the fraud scam suggestion. I think we could afford to do one of those a year anyway, because the scams are changing rapidly, and the technology to handle them, both positive and negative, is also changing rapidly. So what the phones used to do, they don't do now, and so on. And I'd like to be updated. The most recent scam that I ran into is targeting older women, quite older women. The grandmother one, where your grandson or your nephew's just been in a car accident, been taken to jail. You have to produce money just now. And twice recently I've run into that. Someone's got a good list, and very disturbing to widowed or older women living alone and having no one to turn to. There are probably others, but that's the most recent. It's just in the last few months that surfaced. So
yeah, it's very and thanks for stopping by, Kirk. I have to pay attention to what dogs want. That's always important. But yeah, no, that idea on frauds and scams are really important. I have told my grandchildren that if they land up in jail, don't bother to call me. Call your parents, because I dealt with their parents. But that I think, if I could just stick in one quick message about those frauds and scams, it's the sense of urgency. You need to do it now. You don't have time to think about it. This has got to be looked after immediately. Those are the real flags to watch for. And that is the urgency of the grandchild, the scam, and so on. But yes, I think you're right. I think we'll circulate that website that Stephen was kind enough to point out to us, but I think we will also put a note to that, for future events. But there's seniorfraudalert.ca, and I'll have to thank Haidong for his work. Larry, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I must confess that I fell for a fraud. And the reason I think that in part that I fell for was that it was very early in the morning, at the middle of the night, virtually. And they target times at that. So in addition to how to avoid frauds, What I really also would like to hear us deal with is what to do if you suspect that you have fallen for a fraud, which is probably another whole talk.
Yeah, very much so. Very important to keep, again, I mean, you know, the thing is that if you're younger than most of us and still working, if you do get trapped, there's a possibility to recover that income because you're, you know, to again, you know, work on that. But at our age, we're looking at declining resources as we get older, and we're just hoping that our lifespan and our bank account are going to match each other at some point. So, Guy, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to support Larry's question about sharing your passion. And I'll just use myself as an example, because for 2 or 3 weeks now, we've been wanting to tell people about the films that are going to be on at the art gallery in 2 weeks on a Friday. And one of my challenges is the meetings have been really tight and there hasn't been time to step in and talk about it. And then another challenge is the technology. I'm not so sure I know how to share the connection to a Zoom thing, but I'm going to try it just as an experiment. But I think the point I'm trying to make is it would be lovely if once in a while, maybe one way of doing it is we could let the organizers know that, hey, I'd like to tell you about something that's really cool. And it could get built in as a little, maybe it's 15 or 20 minutes, maybe it's not worthy of an hour, but it would be like, I think what I appreciate the most about this programming is it's in breadth. And when Larry was talking about let's have some arts, well, it adds to the depth and the breadth. So I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy. Great idea. Michael, you've got your hand up.
So, Guy, I'm wondering whether we should be inviting the fellow from the art gallery that is gay, that or somebody like that, to talk about what the art gallery is up to and what kinds of things might be of interest to seniors and time, et cetera, and that as well. I can't remember any names of anyone, but I know you're involved there. So that might be something, Larry and Eric, you can explore a little bit further with Guy, not now, but afterwards.
He's actually booked for the 27th of April. His name is Michael as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thank you for doing
That's
an
not the
advanced
only,
promo for us.
I've also, there are some of you, I think, Roy, you have some connection with community theater, do you not? There may be some people there who would be interested to talk about their experience, or let me again remind you, if you have suggestions for movies that would be appropriate for our June 29th screening, do let us know. And that would be helpful. I think we'll probably try to get a woman's focus movie this time, since our last one dealt with a male couple facing dementia in one partner.
Yeah.
But these suggestions are all so wonderful. I think that what we're trying to encourage our community to do is learn more about what's happening in the city and opportunities where, oh, hey, that sounds interesting. I could join in on that, or I might want to participate in that. Particularly I'm as guilty as this. I keep saying I need to go to the art gallery again, and it's another 3 months, and oh, okay, finally now I'm going to go. Those sorts of things. I think it's really, whatever. I love that idea of people being able to say, here's what's going on, and I think this might be interesting for you. We just want to put it out there. So we'll see if we can find a way to integrate that type of thing into our programming in the future. Gina, you have your hand up.
Does the ECM, the minority choir, still exist? We're so out of touch since the pandemic, and I'm interested in music, so I was just wondering, does that still exist? Is it ongoing?
I believe so, and that is something that I think.
No singers here, I see.
No.
So I sing, And yes, the vocal minority is still active. Paula Roberts is the conductor, and they rehearse at Unitary Church.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you, Roy.
Venchuk did give a talk, one of our earliest talks. So that's someone we can invite back again for someone from EVM.
Sure. And just a question, Roy, they normally have a concert during Pride Month. Do you know if they're planning for that this year?
Yes, they are.
Okay. That's something that we can plug on their behalf then. That's because it's always a wonderful evening.
Yeah.
So do you have your hand up again, Roy, or is that?
I do. I wanted to say a couple of things, if I may.
Sure.
First of all, I think that this forum is excellent. However, it seems a bit exclusive, if you will, because it's hard to find this organization. So I think that having the word out more would be great. If there's anyone that has any capability with social media that could make a larger presence, I think that would really help the visibility of this group in existence. Also, I had thought that we were partnering particularly with Sage on their newsletters. I have not received any such letters for an extreme long time. So I think that although there's good work being done, people aren't aware of it. And somehow we have to raise our profile. So I think that maybe even a session on how we do that might be worthwhile to do some brainstorming on.
Perfect. Gina, your hand is still up. Is that, or, oh, okay, now it's not. Okay. Any other comments? But the social media part, you are 100% right. I am technologically taxed to the maximum of my ability. If only you needed outcomes-based software consulting, I would be there for you immediately, but on social presence, unfortunately, I'm not there. So we are looking for some help on that. And I think, fingers crossed, that we have found somebody who will help us get the message out a little bit better. But yeah, I know one of the things we were initially very, very concerned about people being vulnerable and being able to come onto a Zoom call, and because this is centered for gay people. So we tried to keep it low key, but try to get it out to the community in general. And I think now there are enough of us older 2S LGBTQ people that we feel there's support in the community. So I think we can afford to be a little bit more open about, this is a meeting for people, please come and join us. And people certainly, so I would invite you to let your friends know and just tell them to send us a note. I'm more than happy to put their names on the mailing list so that they get the Monday morning posters from us. Very happy to do that. And I see somebody has posted a long thing here, which I need to read about. So somebody
Eric,
else.
it's just about the art gallery programming in the next month. So read it later.
Okay, thank you for that, though. That is really
the challenge is I didn't know how to do it.
You did it very well, but what I'm going to do is hopefully copy it and paste it onto a Word document so I can review it later. Hopefully. Oh no, it doesn't give me the opportunity to copy. It just says it gives me the opportunity to delete it. That's not what I want.
Eric,
we'll
I'll send it to you directly, and then maybe you could share it with everybody, because I don't know how to
Please.
do that.
Please, I will do that. Super. Sorry, I've been talking an awful lot here.
So one of the concerns I have about this forum of Zoom meetings is that you can never enter prior to 11 o'clock. And I find that sometimes is an issue with the number of people wanting to get in. So it would be nice to have the channel open even 5 minutes in advance so that we're set up and ready to go right at 11, but people have the opportunity to get in just prior to that time. Just a housekeeping item that I wanted to mention as a trouble spot for me.
Yeah. And just to let you know, and I appreciate that. I know I did get a note from somebody a couple of weeks ago saying, you know, I tried to sign in at 5 to 11 and it wouldn't let me in, so I abandoned my effort. And that's just concerning. But what we try to do is, just so that you know, is that we normally ask the speaker to sign in at about 11:15. So myself, Larry, Jan will be here, and then we just go through and double check their lighting and their sound and screen sharing if they're going to screen anything. But you're right. I think we usually have that finished by 10 to 11, so there's no reason that we can't just open it up at 5 to 11 and maybe have a sign up saying thanks for joining us. We'll be opening the session at 11 o'clock, something like that. I am at the limit of my technology on Zoom, but I'll see if I can find a way to put up that sign. Thanks for that suggestion. Appreciate it.
If there are no other questions, and I don't see any in the chat room, and I don't see anyone with their hand up. If there are, I will thank you for participating, and thank you for your comments. I think, Roy, we can certainly solve the issue of not being able to get in before 11 on the dot. I agree entirely, and we've been talking about how we can improve our social media presence. So thank you for raising those things. I certainly heard the idea that as fraud changes, so we need to keep abreast of that, and that's something that we will deal with. Safety in general, and perhaps someone from the police. All good suggestions. We'll try to get those done as wherever we can find speakers. And again, I would urge you, following on Guy's comment, if there's something that interests you, let us know. You or someone else that you know, we'd be delighted to have you speak. The aim of this isn't for the three of us to do all the choices, to have the things coming from the community. And our speaker next week, or our speaker for the next 2 weeks, next week is Brendan Brown from Edmonton Fire and Rescue, who's going to talk on fire safety for seniors. Something that we often, I think, don't specifically think about. And the following week will be a return visit from Jackie Ford, who was one of our first speakers, who's going to talk on the value of volunteerism and volunteer work. And she's an excellent speaker. So I think you will enjoy that. So next week, fire safety, the week after that, volunteerism. And at that point, I'll turn the thank you again. Thank Michael and Eric in particular for bailing me out here. And we will see you, I hope, next week. So thank you all for your attendance. Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.